right. You know what? We did this kind of goofy, but we're going to leave it just like it is. So, good evening, everybody. This is Thursday night. It's 8 o'clock. At least it is 8 o'clock Central Time, which, as we all know, is the only time zone that matters, which means it's time for another episode of the Get Off My Lawn podcast. So, I know some of you are out there already in YouTube land, and hopefully the Facebook notification goes out. And it does look like we are able to stream on Facebook. Small victories. We're going to have some fun tonight. For those of you that don't know, my real Facebook profile got thrown in a 30-day jail sentence, so I had to build a separate one and then backdoor him as an admin into the pages so I can even post and all that kind of stuff. So you know what? We did this kind of goofy, but we're going to leave it just... There we go. Hey, look at that. It happens. All right. So that being said, I'm glad that this is going out on Facebook. If you're watching on Facebook, go ahead and throw a comment in. Just say hi or something so I know that we're coming through okay. And I see the comments coming through already on YouTube, so no problems there. So we've got a couple things that I want to do real quick. First off, we're just going to introduce our guest. We have got Trent Luce with us tonight, and Trent is a fellow Nebraskan. And what? I should let you just introduce yourself because I'm going to screw it all up.
I think it'd be much more comical if you do it.
Well, I've been calling you a conservative radio and podcast host and Nebraskan and all around all around pretty decent guy is what I've been saying.
And why is it exactly, John, you get thrown in jail and on probation and all these things? I don't understand that. It makes no sense whatsoever.
Well, because some things that I find to be hilarious,
right,
turns out are not that hilarious if you've got a ginormous stick up your butt. And so it happens. There are people walking around with ginormous sticks literally inserted into their anal orifices. And most of those people, as it turns out, work as fact checkers and or community guideline police for Facebook. And so they're out there, they're watching, they're definitely watching me. And any chance they get to slap sanctions on me, they're going to do it.
Yeah, so that means you're actually getting something done. So kudos to you.
That could be it.
Yeah,
that could be.
I am just quickly. I'll tell you that yours was better. By the way, we should just stick with yours. But I'm sixth generation United States farmer. My wife Kelly's fifth generation from Nebraska. We live in Sherman County. We ranch. We raise pigs. We raise cattle. We have horses, and I do 4 radio shows a day, which you graciously joined me last week on one. I do a TV show every day. I write a column every week, and I'm married well, so I can continue to have critters and sit here looking at this computer talking to people around the world.
Beautiful thing, isn't it?
It is.
I'm in the club of married way out of my league, so I understand. Although I have not met your bride yet, so I'm just assuming that when you say you married well, that she's out of your league. So,
absolutely, that was a great assumption. Otherwise. Despite your mother telling you, John, don't go through life assuming.
Right? Yeah, my mom didn't say that, but just life experiences in general have taught me better. But I still do it because I'm a slow study. So we are going to bring a few of the usual suspects in here real quick. We've got. Well, let's go ahead and introduce the fully semi-official co-host. We've got Defense Dad coming to us from the capital city of Lincoln, Nebraska.
Yep.
What's up?
Well, I'm just here to be comic relief and eye candy for the ladies, like usual.
That's true. I had to bring on a good-looking fella since I can't get my bride to be on camera, and that's okay. She doesn't want to. I had to find somebody prettier than me to get on here, so Shane takes care of that for us. Ladies, he's single. Just saying. Single. Might be willing to mingle. That's all I'm gonna say. Also from the wow, you guys just as well be twins, other than the beard. Also from the capital city of Lincoln, also single, also an all-around good-looking fella. I mean, honestly. Also eye candy. Travis P. 11's in the house.
Absolutely. I mean, I'm nobody's sugar daddy, but I will say this: I am eye candy. So, like, if we just clean you guys up a little bit, you look exactly like me.
Pretty
So,
much.
and if I grew
hairlines.
a mustache, I'd look just like Trent. So we're just kind of like all just kind of about the same, like Nebraska.
John, I had no
cornstalk
idea
or
I was
something,
joining
so
a dating show to be like a supervisor or
he's got to help his
chaperone or
friends out
something.
when he can because we're
Well,
hopeless.
see, what happens is these guys, if they don't have a couple married fellas here in the chat with them, then the whole thing goes off the rails, and they're
Yeah.
trying to get viewers' numbers, and you know how it is. So we got to make sure that we keep this thing grounded, and we don't use our powers for nefarious purposes. So that's what's
Got
up there.
I'm up to speed.
All right. And last but certainly not least, coming to us from the bunker in an undisclosed location somewhere possibly near the Kansas border. We don't know how far the tunnel goes. We don't know if it actually goes into Kansas or not. But Pat, in a bunker, how are you?
I'm doing good.
Whoa. We should have had you talk a little bit before we sent you in here.
I got bad news again.
Can't even understand it. All you're doing is just, you sound like a blown speaker. You might want to drop out and try dropping back in. This is the beauty of live television, kids. This happens sometimes. We're gonna give Pat a chance. I gotta mute that. I'm sorry, man. He sounds worse than a Dalek. He'll be back, so we'll get him in here real quick. Couple things I want to mention before we get into it here. First off, if you're out there watching, leave us a comment. We want to know that you're out there, especially on the Facebook side, because we rarely get comments over on the Facebook side while we're live. So drop those comments in there. Let us know that you're out there, and if you want to let us know where you are out there, that's awesome, because we like to know where everybody is when they're watching. So go ahead and drop those comments in there in the live chat section. And if you're catching this on replay, please still go ahead and drop those comments. We want to know what you have to say. But if we catch them live and their questions or their comments that pertain to the conversation, we can go ahead and throw those up on the screen and interact with you. It's way better than normal TV, way better than normal radio being interactive this way. And please hit the share button. Don't just hit the share button and send it off to your Facebook page or whatever. Send this off in a text or an email. Send it to people that you think would actually appreciate the things we have to say, or at the very least, get a kick out of it. And heck, if you got a liberal mother-in-law and you just want to get her going, go ahead and send it to her too. We'll take a view. A view is a view. So we'll take anybody we can get.
John, you didn't just make a disparaging comment about normal radio, did you?
No, I just said this is better.
Okay, all right.
Hopefully that's a little bit better.
It's not hardly even at all.
I'm gonna have to drop out and just go out tonight.
Doggone it. I was hoping to have a 5-person Nebraska panel, but I get it. All right. Well, that's not going to work for Pat's audio. We're going to mute that up because I'm getting feedback on this end even. Okay, so I'm sorry, Pat, that we're not going to be able to hear from you tonight. One other thing that I wanted to mention tonight is we do have, of course, our sponsor's logo up in the top right corner of the screen, Open Country Firearms there. So real quick, before we jump into this, I just want you to know that we're able to go to YouTube and Facebook both at the same time because of Garrett Keel over at Open Country Firearms in Osmond, Nebraska. Garrett's goal with Open Country was to create a great storefront and assist responsible gun owners in new and used purchases, custom orders, transfers, and more. He's always been an advocate for the Second Amendment and thought opening his own gun store would be an excellent way to help shooters get what they want and connect with new people. Call Garrett at 402-841-0970 or visit opencountryfirearms.com for some of the best deals on new and used firearms, ammunition, and now suppressors. And please let him know that we sent you so he knows that his advertising dollars are actually going to good use, and he'll stay a sponsor with us for many years to come. Garrett's not just a dealer. He's an all-around good guy. Finally got to hang out with him a little bit. We DJ'd a wedding across the street from where his shop is this Saturday night. So, and he was friends with the couple, so got to hang out with Garrett just a little bit when he's not at work, when I was at work at the other job. So, all right. we're gonna get into this now and just kind of see how the conversation goes. So we'll let our special guest here kind of start things off a little bit, but here's why I picked tonight's topic. So if you are paying attention at all to Nebraska politics, especially Nebraska 2A politics, we've got a constitutional carry bill in the legislature right now. And one of the Nebraska state senators, and we're not gonna pick on her and name Megan Hunt by name. Oops, we did, didn't we? So here's the thing: she is one of the front runners in filibustering that bill when it came up for discussion a week ago today. It was, and so. And she put a very fun tweet that I wasn't smart enough to pull up to put it on the screen, but we're not going to. Basically saying that the Second Amendment isn't a God-given right. The Constitution was written by people, and these people were misogynists and slave owners and old white guys. You know, everything that makes you, well, misogynist and slave owner really does make you, I think, evil to an extent. But she's trying to say that. Just because of all that the ideas in the Constitution aren't what we think they are, and shouldn't be held sacred or hollow. And so she's trying to say that there's no reason not to put some restrictions on firearms. And I've heard her speak about other bills and things in general, and she's kind of one of the people who's one of the front runners for there's no reason to take away the mandatory training and the permitting system so that we can vet who it is that's exercising their Second Amendment freedoms. We don't want people just running around willy-nilly with guns without any training, because we don't want accidents to happen, and we don't want gunfights in the streets, and we don't want all this stuff that, the same crap that they all spewed in 2006, well, from 97 to 2006, when the fight was on to get permit to carry passed here in Nebraska. And of course, none of that ever came to fruition. It didn't anywhere. It's not an issue. The places with freedoms don't have the gun battles that the strict places like Chicago do. But it's weird how we always point that out and nobody has an answer for that. Not a smart one anyway. And so it made me think that this woman and several others in the unicameral think that their job is to be the world police, or at least the Nebraska police, as far as not actual law enforcement, but it's their job to walk around making decisions for those of us that are too stupid to decide things for ourselves. And if we can't make decisions to keep ourselves safe, then thank God they're in there and they can make decisions and they can make laws to keep us safe and try to save us from ourselves. But the problem with that is legislature, government in general, whether it's whichever branch, government in general was not put in place to keep us safe. Government's job is to keep us free. And the only exception to that might be safety from outside invaders, but we'll talk about that here in a second, because I've even got something to say about that. But Trent, just you've been kind of plugged into not only politics but just common sense for quite some time, and I'm kind of springing this on you because I didn't give you much time to prepare or think about stuff earlier tonight. So what do you think when I say that government's job isn't to keep us safe, it's to keep us free? I mean, do you agree with that? Do you have anything that kind of you want to mention when I say that?
Well, actually, I do, and I wasn't able to be present in the Capitol when LB 773 came to the floor,
Right.
but I do get to the Capitol quite a bit, and throughout the course of the year. And just 3 weeks ago, I was there and testified on another bill, and that bill was a bill sponsored by Senator Merman from Clay County. I'm not sure that district number, doesn't matter, but the purpose of that bill was to put some safeguards in place for the landowners of the state of Nebraska against a federal land grab called 30 by 30. 30 by 30 is an executive order that was signed by Joe Biden on January 27th, 2021, Executive Order 18004, if you'd like to look it up. And that order says that 30% of the land and the water by 2030 will be in conservation easements to protect it for climate change mitigation. Senator Merman's bill was to put protections for us as landowners of that federal overreach. And the reason I'm walking through this long story, and it doesn't sound like I'm talking about what you asked me at all, which I am, is because one of the committee members listening to this bill and hearing made a statement that speaks to what you just said. And by the way, this same senator was a thorn in your side right alongside the one you mentioned last week, a week ago today. She happens to be those other two guys that are with us, senator. And she said, well, I'm really confused because usually people are in here trying to get us to protect the pristine sandhills of Nebraska. And here you are now testifying, saying that this federal bill, which is going to protect the sandhills of Nebraska, is wrong. And that hit me so big, John, because her thought process is that the whole role of government is to protect the people, and that we can't conserve and be better stewards of the land without some federal program to make it happen. And nothing could be farther from the truth. The land, the sandhills of Nebraska, we'll just talk about that because it's what gets a lot of attention. It's a gorgeous place. At one time thought to be a wilderness, which now we know is one of the great resource producing parts of the world. And it's better today than when we started managing it in the late 1800s, because man has found a way through each generation to make improvements, produce more with less, improve the organic matter. By the way, the sandhills are called the sandhills because back before we started managing it as we do, bison overgrazed it and the wind would blow out sand dunes. And you don't have that today, even in the severe drought that we had in the past 12 months. And so it just spoke volumes to me. In fact, I wrote my column about it that week, that there are so many people that have this thought process that if the government doesn't start a program, the people are going to be in trouble. The government is the problem, and we need to free the people, we the people, from the government overreach and all of these overprotective measures that they continue to put into place. Exactly why LB 773 is the right thing, because the Constitution says that I have the right to bear an arm. It does not say if you get a permit, you have the right to bear arm. It's coming back to the basic principles that the United States Constitution was about from the beginning and what should still be today.
Absolutely. Wow. Either one of you two want to try and say anything any better?
Man, we kind of stole my thunder there, obviously, but it's
I was going to say everything he just said.
Sorry about Hey, well, and we need a little storm, Travis, so that's all good. As we got thunder, maybe there'll be some rain coming.
Yeah, exactly. But you're right though. I mean, once you start to get that federal overreach, it's like they think they know what's better for us than ourselves, and I don't agree with it at all. So it's a very good point that we don't need the federal government to tell us what to do, because I think we've got it under control. So I kind of feel like Nebraska does that also on an educational front too, in schools, telling the feds to kind of keep your hands off our kids. We can take care of it ourselves. So I exactly know how it feels. Even though I deal in the education industry, not the farming industry, it's the same thing. They provide so little of the funding, but they want to call the shots. And I've never agreed with that at all. So,
well, and it's not only that, but go ahead, Shane.
I was just going to say, they sit in their chambers or their offices or where the hell they are, right? And they supposedly get input from their constituents or whatever, but they're out of touch and out of reality with the people they're supposed to be representing. They're just trying to come up with all these things to justify their job and their position to keep it coming. Yeah, they act like we're a bunch of idiot kids running around here. They're going to shoot our damn heads off if someone doesn't tell us how to do something. I'm here to tell you, people for hundreds and hundreds of years took care of themselves way better than the government could.
Well, and even if we go back to firearms, I mean, there already is no required training and no required permit for me to walk into a gun store and purchase any kind of long gun. And the only reason that a permit is required to purchase a handgun is because that way the dealers can get out of running the NICS check. And a lot of dealers just won't deal with having to do the NICS check in the waiting period if you don't have a purchase permit or a carry permit. Otherwise, you can still you can still buy the gun without that legally in Nebraska. You just have to go through not only do they have to call in the NICS check, but then I believe you have to wait the 7 days before you can take possession of it. And most people don't do that. They just go down and get the background check done at the police station or sheriff's department, get their permit, and away they go, they buy their firearm. But there's still no training in order to do that. And the only reason that I would pay for the purchase permit is the convenience, not the necessity of the thing. And again, I know I've been to gun shows and most of them have a sign. Most tables or dealers that have a sign on one of their tables that says, we're not going to deal with you unless you've got your purchase permit. And that's because it's a gun show. It's hard to call that in. Sometimes you're in a place where there is no self-service or it's noisy and they're not going to mess with it. They're there to make deals and get to the next guy. So I get that too, but they don't require any kind of training and no permit is required. No vetting is required for me to possess the firearm other than there's a list of things that prohibit me from possessing a firearm. If I'm a felon, if I am a illegal drug user, if I've ever been judged mentally incompetent or been admitted against my own, against my will. Self-admissions don't disqualify you. The whole list if you've ever bought a firearm because you filled out Form 4473. And so there's already no requirement to go through any kind of safety training. They just assume that you're smart enough to know that this thing can cause great damage and potential death, and that you're going to treat it with the respect that it deserves and the responsibility that it deserves. The assumption is just there, and it's on the end user to assume that responsibility, right? There's no training required for me to go buy a car, and there's no training required for me to get my driver's license other than I just have to test out and prove that I'm competent. But I don't have to take driver's ed class and show that certificate just to go get my driver's license. I never did anyway. Unless things have changed for kids now, because I know that some of that stuff's different. But the biggest thing is, we go back to these senators and Congress people, and sometimes mayors, governors, even presidents that are trying to protect us from ourselves, save us from ourselves, right? I mean, which New York mayor was it? Bloomberg that limited how big a fountain pop could be.
Yeah,
because true story.
You just can't be getting that big gulp from 7-Eleven. It's too big. You gotta have the smaller one. Because we know better than you do what to put in your body. Now, granted, is that 86-ounce fountain drink the best thing for you? Well, no. But then did they tell people that they can't smoke cigarettes or you can't buy cigarettes by the carton? You can only buy a pack at a time? Don't remember hearing that one. And I'll take my chances with the soda over the nicotine and the what else, tar and everything else in the tobacco. So again, I mean, they say they talk out of both sides of their mouth. They say on one hand, well, it's their job to protect us and they want us to be safe and they want to make sure that people don't get hurt. But then they turn around and they focus on things like AR-15s, which I know the FBI doesn't differentiate from any other rifle, but rifles in general are used in less than 2% of mass shootings. I mean, come on. Let's focus on 2% of this and not worry about the other 98%. Now, I'm not saying we should regulate handguns. What I am saying is, why focus on the thing that hardly anybody ever uses to do bad crimes with? Why we got to take that away? It's not even an issue. If you took every AR-15 out of this country, you've reduced mass shootings by 2%. Oh, that's all rifles. So we don't even know about AR-15s. But you've reduced deaths by firearm by a whopping 2%. But if you really wanted to save lives, you'd put a governor on every automobile and make it to where nobody could drive faster than 30 miles an hour. We'd save a lot of lives. You know what would save a lot of lives in inner cities? If you maybe we should have a permit for the Fourth Amendment, because the police can stop you at any time and pat you down and see if you're carrying weapons. And if you don't have your permit with you to say that you have the Fourth Amendment, then they can do it. you have to have a permit to keep them from an illegal search of your person. Nobody would go for that. Nobody would be okay with that. Nobody would be okay with a mandatory training class before you can invoke the Fifth Amendment and not incriminate yourself in court. It just wouldn't happen. So why is it okay now? Why do we sit here idly by and let them shovel this nonstop stream of manure on us all day long and say that we have to focus on the guns because that is the number one problem in America? Well, it's not. It's not. Forks are the number one problem in America. McDonald's is the number one problem in America. Obesity kills way more people than bullets do every year, but they don't care about that. So that's where it gets me all fired up is if you really were the protectors of the people, then you really would protect us. The other thing is, if somebody's going to be my protector, I expect him to be there 24/7, the way that Superman is for Lois Lane, because that girl can't go anywhere without getting thrown off a building, but he's always there to catch her. And if these senators want to appoint themselves as my protector, that's fine, but they better be there to back me up at any point of the day or night so that if anything bad would happen, they're right there to take care of any issues I might have. And if they can't guarantee that, then they need to get out of my way and let me be responsible for myself. Let me make my own decisions on what tools I need to do the job that they couldn't possibly do, and let me be. And it gets me a little fired up. I don't know if you guys could tell that, but it gets me a little fired up.
The only thing I would add to that, John, is that I don't agree that it's, I don't go to McDonald's. I just don't do that. I don't believe in McDonald's policies as it relates to telling farmers how to take care of animals, because we know more about taking care of animals than anybody marketing at McDonald's will ever know. But it is not McDonald's fault that people are not physically fit. It's the fault of the person that made the wrong choice, the people who did not have self-responsibility. And that plays exactly into what we're talking about here with proper ownership and responsibility of guns. And it's absolutely no different. You can't separate the two.
Well, and not only that, but yeah, and it comes back to, sure, and anybody can take one look at me and see that I don't always make the right choice when it comes to what I put into my body or how much time I spend exercising my body. But again, I'm not going to come whining when I've got heart issues or something like that down the road and expect the state and the taxpayers to take care of me and pay my medical bills. Well, no, I made my choices. I made the bed. I'll lie in it. But so many people today can't wrap their head around that concept that they made their own choices and now they are the ones who are responsible to accept the outcome, and that the taxpayers can't be expected to be burdened with taking care of that. So
agree 100%.
That again, that's just another thing that really.
Oh, wait a minute. I agree 98%. I don't agree that you are physically unfit. That was your statement. That's your choice, your opinion. I did not weigh in on that opinion.
So here's what I want to add.
And do it.
And this is back to LB 773. This is the thing that infuriates me to no end about this whole damn thing. Is they want to control this because it makes them feel better that they're straight. What they're not even focusing on, and maybe we don't want them to because they'll come after this too, they're fighting so hard to basically not let us concealed carry a firearm without government overreach and training, when I can go more places and open carry legally without training or a permit in this state than I can concealed carry. Case in point, the Capitol. I can open carry in the Capitol. I can't concealed carry in the Capitol. But they're focusing on, because someone might hide the gun, that's much more unsafe than someone just walking around having it exposed. I mean, it's completely, I'm sorry, it's asinine.
Sure.
It just is.
And it completely is. And that argument became a double-edged sword last Thursday in the debate, because Senator Brewer and Senator Ben Hansen, and there may have been others, but those are the two that stick out in my mind, that had some comments that basically said the same thing, that, you can open carry, you don't have to be vetted, you don't have to have a permit, you don't have to have any kind of special training class. or certification in order to open carry. If you can legally possess the firearm, you can legally open carry it. So then Senator Moorfeld, and there may have been a few others, but I remember him repeatedly bringing this up, that when you open carry, then you're putting everyone around you on notice that you're carrying a firearm. And when you concealed carry, then I don't know that you have it. So I don't know if you're safe. And I don't know if I'm safe with you around, is basically what he's saying. Now, those aren't my words, and they're not his exact words. I'm paraphrasing. But at the same time, that's kind of what he's saying, is that, open carry requires you to put everybody on notice that you're carrying the firearm. And he's right to an extent. It does. That's why most of us don't do it on a regular basis, because we don't want Mr. Bad Guy, who might or might not be around, to zero in on us as the first target. Or we don't want somebody trying to catch us off guard, get behind us and disable us and steal our sidearm. Can those things happen? Yeah, if you're not paying attention, absolutely they can. If you're going to open carry, make sure you've got at least a level 2 retention holster, if not level 3, because you want to be the only one that can ever remove that from its holster if the time does come to do it. But at the same time, I don't understand, and this is something that, and I can't remember the senator, but I know one of them did say this. He can't understand, and I'm the same way. I can't understand why, if I'm okay with Trent walking around open carrying a handgun, and I don't have a problem with that, then if he puts his coat on over it and conceals it, he's no different. He doesn't magically become a bad person. He doesn't magically become a criminal. He does if he doesn't have a permit right now, but he shouldn't magically become a criminal. But what I mean is, inside his mind and his heart, nothing changes with the coat on or the coat off. He's the same person. He's still got the same heart, the same mind that he always did have. And nothing changes as far as all of a sudden, oh, I've got a concealed firearm under my jacket, I can go do bad things to people. That doesn't happen to anybody. They either have the bad thoughts or they don't have the bad thoughts. And some people do have the bad thoughts. And because of those people, I want to be able to have a handgun with me just in case I run into one of those people and their bad thoughts point at my direction. Simple as that. I don't want to have to ask the state permission, because I don't have to ask the state permission to exercise any other right. Now, that's where this comes down to, and that's the fundamental disconnect that we keep seeing with the constitutional carry thing, is that some senators don't see it as a fundamental right inherent to being alive, and others do. But the thing is, it doesn't matter how you see it. What matters is it's in the Constitution. That's all it comes down to. Right, wrong, or indifferent, it's in there. I wish some people didn't have freedom of speech. I don't like what they say. But you know what? The Constitution says they've got a right to say it. Well, I might not agree with you, and I might not like what you say, but I will fight tooth and nail for you to have the right to say it. And it's the same way with carrying your firearm. I might not like you, and I might not want you having a gun, but unless you have been proven to be a criminal or an otherwise prohibited person, I will fight tooth and nail for your ability to have one, because there may come a time that you and I are the only ones standing in the gap, and I want you to be armed.
And they rely on people being complacent, because we become so used to, well, I got to have a license for this, and I got to have a license for that, or I got to pay a fee, and I got to pay for that. So what's the difference? What's one more fee? What's one more license? It's just the way things work. The Constitution was written way back when. It's a fluid document. It should be able to change. That's how they portray it, and that's their thoughts on it. And man, at some point, you just gotta stay. I can't. I'm not gonna put up with any more of this crap. And
it's no different than the COVID stuff. The mask mandates. Let's see how far we can push John Q. Public. Let's see how much he'll take before he stops taking it and says no more. Let's put masks on everybody. Let's put 2 masks on everybody. Let's make sure that a 2-year-old has to be masked up on an airplane. And if the 2-year-old won't keep his mask on, we'll throw the whole family off the airplane. I mean, it happened. We all saw the video, I'm sure, and it's asinine. If you've ever been around a 2-year-old, they don't do a dang thing you tell them. That's why they're in the terrible twos. But that's just it, is they keep pushing to see how far the average American is willing to be pushed. And the sad thing is, way too many of you out there are willing to back up way too far before you say, that's it, I'm not backing up any further. We shouldn't back up at all. The government should never push us. We don't work for them. They work for us. Too many people forgot that on both sides. The people in the Capitol here and in Washington, and the people that put them there forget who works for whom, who the bosses are. Their job. We didn't put them there to make us safe. They don't know how to make me safe. And I don't trust them. Even if they do know. Here's the thing. Travis, you might know more than I do about keeping me safe, right? That might be your thing that you know a ton about, and you might know more than me about safety and security and keeping me safe in my life and my daily functions. But I don't trust you, even if you do know, I don't trust you to always be here and able to keep me safe. So therefore, I'm not going to listen to you. I'm going to reclaim the responsibility, and I'll be responsible. And if I get it wrong, then I'm not going to blame Travis. I'm not going to blame Senator Hunt. I'm not going to blame Joe Biden. I'm going to blame John Anderson, because I'm the one that's responsible for my safety, and to an extent, my bride. But she's also responsible for her own safety. If she sees me making a bad decision, she's the one that needs to tell me that I'm making a bad decision, and she's not willing to go along with it, because that's part of making decisions, right? Especially when you're a couple. And so again, you are your own first responder. You're the only one that you can guarantee to be there with you when it hits the fan. You can't go around whining that you're not safe if you're not willing to take responsibility for your safety. That's all there is to it. We cannot depend on the government to do crap, as they've proven. They're not dependable. So why would we give them the power to trust our safety? Of all things, the thing that is the most sacred to us of anything is our safety. Without that, it doesn't matter if you're hungry or not, right? If you're not safe, you got to get safe first, then get fed. And so that's kind of how it comes down. It's the biggest thing that's in any of our lives. We got to make sure that we're not just idly pawning that responsibility off to people that don't care about us.
Well, go ahead, Travis.
Oh, I was just going to tell John, but John, when seconds count, I'm only hours away.
That's true. That's true.
Literally.
Yeah, you're right. Okay, fine. I'll just let you be responsible for my safety.
Yeah,
I got you covered.
I can tell you this as a person who has spoken in front of many audiences, 500 plus people. And when you have the majority of the audience open carry, I, as an individual, as an MC or a speaker, those are absolutely the most comfortable meetings I've ever been a part of, because I just feel like there is tremendous safety in this particular event.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's really what it comes down to, right? I've been at 2A rallies where tons of people are open carrying. I've been to gun shows where Travis and I've been to the biggest gun show in the world down in Tulsa. And there's people walking around. Now, okay, that's a little bit different situation. They didn't allow people to walk around carrying a loaded sidearm. You had to be disarmed to be in there. But for security purposes, with that many people in an establishment that big, I understand. Didn't bother us. We were willing to disarm to go in there. But they had actual active security in place too. And so
yeah, they had fully kitted out sheriffs at every entrance. They had 3 heavily armed officers at every entrance. I've never felt safer in my life.
Not only sworn officers, but also private security along with sworn officers at every entrance.
That's one of the few times in my life I've felt safe being disarmed, and that's an awful. I mean, I wish we could have had our guns on us. I didn't see the reason why, but if somebody was going to do something,
they're not going to. I just figured it was probably I figured it was an insurance issue, liability issue, if anything. But I mean, there were people selling ammo, there were people selling guns, and if anything would have happened, it wouldn't have taken long.
Grab one and one.
Yeah,
I mean, So in that situation, when seconds count, the SBRs were 25 yards away. Okay,
Yeah.
that's
There
all
you
I'm
go.
gonna say. Duck. Yeah, you're fine.
Yeah, everybody hit the ground.
No,
No, that's really what it comes down to. So what do you guys? I mean, anything else that you guys want to throw out there as far as just let's do it this way. What other examples have you guys seen? We'll bring Trent back in here. He's reconnected now. What examples have the three of you seen where the government's kind of overstepped in the interest of safety or protecting the people? What else can we throw out there as far as the places where they've gotten it wrong?
Well, I guess the one that I was most involved with, and it's the one where a life was lost. I talked about meetings that I've been a part of that people were carrying in John Day, Oregon. We had a memorial for Lavoy Finicum, and Lavoy Finicum was literally murdered on the side of the highway by a federal government that was telling everybody that they were there to protect the citizens. I was in Burns, Oregon. I talked to the people in that town when that situation was going down in January of 2016. They had well, I'll just give you the whole story. I emceed, or I was the moderator for a town hall meeting, and we had in excess of 600 people there. And the people, one after another, were talking. I would let them come, and they would speak about their thoughts on what was going on at Malheur National Wildlife Refuge and what needed to happen. And to a point, every single person would say, I really have no concern about what's going on with the individuals who are occupying Malheur. I'm concerned about what the federal government's doing to my town right now, and they're scaring my kids. They're scaring my community. It was the government and how they handled the situation and what the FBI was doing that caused the fear. And there was one guy that was willing to stand up to him, and he would quote the Constitution left and right. And when I left that county, when I left Harney County, I told people they were going to make sure Lavoy Finicum did not walk away from this, and he did not. And on January 26, 2016, they took his life. And that is the one that sticks with me every single day. I think about that, and I see the parallels in what's going on in today's world right along the same way.
Wow, yeah, that's pretty heavy. I'm not even sure what to follow that one up with. Travis or Defense Dad, either one of you seen some other examples of where the maybe not quite that extreme, but I mean, I know you guys see it all the time, even if it's city government.
So let's put it this way. So during all the BLM stuff and everything, the local governments stepped in and they supported defund the police, that kind of stuff. Look what happened in Seattle because of that. They conformed to it, and they took the law enforcement's power away to protect that city. And look what happened to the city, because they were all worried about what the public image of the rioting was, and they let that city go to completely to hell. May not be complete government overreach. In that point, to me, it's government underreach. They made it so hard for the people who are actually supposed to protect us do their jobs that the city became almost a war zone within its own within the own central part of it.
And Shane, if I can add, what we tend to forget, and we talk about the Constitution clearly says the person that is to protect the people is not even the governor, it's the sheriff, it's the county sheriff. And the failure in Harney County, the failure in Seattle, the failure that we see around the country is when the local sheriff, the county sheriff, does not stand up and do what his oath was, which is to protect the citizens of his county from enemies, foreign and domestic. And if we just follow the Constitution and get back to that hierarchy, and the sheriff even understands that that's what they're supposed to be doing, most of the problems that we have will go away, because the county sheriff has to ask the federal FBI or whatever the case may be to come in to their county. They can't literally come in without permission of the sheriff. And when the sheriff says, okay, go ahead, it just never goes well.
Well, and specifically in Nebraska, because the way it's populated, like that sheriff may not have the power or the resources to protect the people that he's supposed to protect. Like what I've said on the show before, where my parents live, they live in a town of 350 people, and I think they're counting everybody in the whole county. And the local sheriff or police officer is also the city works manager, the parks manager. He is so spread so thin, and they have one part-time deputy to give him a day off or so a week. If something bad happened in that town, if there weren't armed people that could step in and help protect themselves in the town they live in, the closest place with any sort of police department is 30 minutes away. Period.
Well, I mean, shoot, yeah, the same where I grew up, in Kippahaw County, Nebraska. I recently found out there's 2 law enforcement officers. I thought they just had a sheriff, but there was a deputy at the Polar Bear Dip here back in January. But I didn't know there was a deputy up there. That's how much. Number one, that's how little I get home, and number two, how much I see law enforcement in my home county. But that's just it. I mean, it's to get if they're in town, if they're in Springview, to get out to my dad's place, you're looking at 15 to 20 minutes, and that's if they put the pedal down. If they drive like I did in high school. Hope Dad's not listening. But I mean, that's just it. I mean, it's 20, 30 miles out there. You're hard pressed, and some of these county roads, let's face it, across Nebraska, you're not going to get much more than maybe 50 or 60 miles an hour out of them. And so that's just all there is to it. And in doing that's going to beat the crap out of your vehicle going that fast. So that's just kind of the way that works.
John, how many new gun owners do you think we have in America over the last 4 years? Have you heard any numbers about how many new gun owners there are out there? First-time gun owners, new gun owners, was it 3 million a year? Are we pushing more
in the U.S.?
Yeah. How many new gun owners? How many do you think we have? I know it's an impossible figure to try to sum up, but what do you think?
Yeah, because what they figure up, there's 20 or 30 million guns have been sold since the 2 weeks to flatten the spread or whatever. Well, I guess even before that, since all the riots and stuff, I guess it was.
So I just think that those millions of sales and all those people getting guns, and I know myself personally, I've got friends and family that have purchased firearms that would never before any of this, before 2016, 17, never thought to buy a gun. But you start getting phone calls, hey, we don't feel safe. I mean, I think that speaks volumes about people coming to the realization that government can't keep you safe.
Well,
your safety, you're on your own.
That's a perfect point right there. That's the whole reason why I bought an AR, because I had never cared. Not being a veteran, I was never exposed to ARs. Didn't understand the fascination, never got bit by the bug. Still don't think I've been bit by the bug, but I at least understand why people choose that rifle. It's the most popular rifle in America now. I get it. I've got one. But that's why I got one, because all I had to defend myself with were handguns and or bolt action hunting rifles or rimfires. That's it in my house until we got the first AR. And so, but I did that because I didn't know what was going to happen. We were starting to see this country tear itself apart. We were hearing from people like Justin Gibbons, who sometimes joins us here in the chat. He was telling me back then about driving through Nashville, and he never stopped. He had to slow down a few times for some crowds, but he never stopped rolling. But by the time he got out of Nashville, he got to the next truck stop, and his company had to put new mirrors and stuff on the side of his Peterbilt because that stuff got knocked off. People were throwing stuff at the cab and everything else, and that's why he wouldn't stop, because he didn't want anybody dragging him out, right? But I mean, we all heard about that stuff, and I just looked at Sandhill Sweetheart and I said, look, we've got to do something better just in case than just our handguns and the deer rifles. So that's why we ended up doing that. I'm one of the 20 million guns that well, maybe more than one, but I'm not going to name numbers. But yeah, I think the rough tally, as near as anybody can guesstimate, at least 5 million new gun owners.
Actually, I have the numbers according to the National Shooting Sports Foundation. In 2021, 5.4 million new gun owners.
In 2021?
Just 2021. But in 2020, 8.4 million new first-time gun owners. So in the last 2 years, over 11, nearly 12 million.
Wow. That's awesome. So yeah, all of you new gun owners, if you're listening, we are not telling you that we think you should be mandated to go get training for that thing. or have a permit to be able to carry that. But please go get training. I know that sometimes it's kind of intimidating to figure out who's a good trainer and who's not. But start asking around. Go find one. Don't be the person that the news loves to put on the news as being irresponsible. Go be responsible. Learn how to maintain your equipment, operate it correctly, operate it safely, and maintain it correctly too. So that you're not getting your name in the headlines for the wrong reason. And please just go do that. There's a lot of how do I say it? When you hold a destructive device like that in your hand, I mean, that's power. There's a lot of power in holding a firearm, right? If there wasn't, they wouldn't be trying to take them away from us. That's just all there is to it. If there wasn't power in having firearms, they wouldn't care that we have them. But just like Uncle Ben said, with that great power comes great responsibility. So don't forget that other half, because we want the power to defend ourselves. We want the power to be responsible for ourselves. We want the power to feed ourselves if it hits the fan. The firearm is still the most efficient way to do that. Of course, there are other ways to do it, but if you've got the choice between a bow and a gun, and you're not doing it for sport, you're doing it because if you don't, the family starves, then you're going to pick the gun every time. That's just the way that works. That's what we keep harping on is, yes, we want you to be responsible, but we also have noticed that we're not hearing about people being not only irresponsible, but we're not hearing about people being aggressive with their firearms already. And the fact that you've been through the vetting process and got a permit still doesn't change your heart. The guy that went to Las Vegas and took all 15,000 of his guns into the hotel room and started shooting up the concerts. I mean, he passed all the background checks. The background checks don't tell you what's in somebody's heart. You don't know what their plan is. He wasn't a criminal until he started planning to kill people. And of course, then he was a criminal. And we want to try to disarm criminals. But again, we go back to that thing about these rights that are listed in that document called the Constitution. And it's not a big document. I've got one right here, and it's pretty small. You can read through this in a couple hours or half a day, depending on how well you read. But in the back of it is this thing called the amendments, and the first 10 of them listed out called the Bill of Rights. None of those rights, except the Second Amendment, but none of those other rights listed in those amendments have prior restraint applied to them. That's what it comes down to, is you can't guarantee my safety. That's just it. You can do everything you want to try to keep me safe. Those of you out there with parents can relate to this. I'm not a parent, but I had 2 of them, and they told me this. So I'm going to trust their word on this, and you guys that are parents can back me up here. If you could make every decision for your offspring and keep them 100% safe, you would do that if that was an option. But as a functioning, soon to be an adult citizen here in our society, that eventually they're going to have to take responsibility for their own decisions, and your job becomes less and less as they get older about keeping them safe and more about keeping them free. And when I say free, I'm talking about teaching them to make decisions to where they maintain their own freedom, right, and their own responsibility, so that they're not out committing crimes. Teach them how to make good decisions and pick good friends and do, not do petty mischief when they're little that eventually may escalate, doesn't know every time, may escalate into actually something that's going to put them in prison later. But eventually, as they get older, you've got to start giving them more freedom, right? You can't take your kid who's a senior in high school and still drive them to school every day and be there at the door of the school to pick them up and walk them out to the car and drive them home at the end, as a senior in high school, and still expect them to become a functioning member of society, especially if you're going to send them off to college somewhere. I mean, then they've had no real world experience. They've had no practice at making decisions for themselves, getting it wrong, learning from getting it wrong, doing better the next time. I mean, that's how some of us, that's the only way I learn, is when I get it wrong. And I don't learn the first time. I make that mistake 3 or 4 times just to make sure I've learned that lesson good and well. So, but that's part of being a kid growing up, right? We all at some point were a kid growing up, and some of you have kids now that you're raising, and you're watching them make the same mistakes that you did because you have to. You have to sit back at some point and let them make mistakes, and then be there to help pick up the pieces the way that hopefully you had somebody there to help you pick up the pieces when it happened to you. But that's part of being a responsible adult, or learning to be a responsible adult, and taking responsibility for your actions and accepting consequences for those actions, right? Your kid mouths off to a teacher and gets, or mouths off to a coach and gets kicked off the basketball team. Okay, well, scholarship dreams down the drain, right? Sucks. You got to be there for your kid, but at the same time, you can't shield them from the consequence. You can't always go back and appeal to that coach and get them back on the team. Sometimes they just have to deal with the fact that what they did came with an ouch at the end of it, and that's all there is to it, right? Same thing with being a lawmaker. Lawmakers, you've got to let us have the freedom to get it right or not. And if we don't get it right, that's what laws are for. That's what law enforcement is for. It's not law enforcement's job to keep me safe either. It's law enforcement's job to make sure that if I break the law, that I pay the consequences for breaking the law. And if something happens to me, who was I just talking to? I wasn't talking. It was a video from Masad Ayub on the Wilson Combat YouTube channel. And I don't know how many years that Mas Ayub worked in law enforcement, but he said he can think of 2 times that he ever got to a crime in time to stop it instead of investigate it afterwards. And this is Masad Ayub, who I think we can all agree that there's probably nobody out there that has forgotten more about police work than he has. I mean, that's how much he knows. He's forgotten more than most police ever learn about police work. And so that's what it comes back down to. I think that we may have wrung all we can wring out of this topic. Before we start wrapping things up, I'll give you guys a chance. If anybody has something else you want to jump in here with, go ahead and do her.
Well, I'll just start off, John, and thanks for the opportunity to be with you, and thanks for continuing to do this, because we do live in a representative republic. That's what that Constitution guarantees us. God gave us the rights. The Constitution makes sure that we have them. And too many times people sit back and complain and whine about the elected official or the law enforcement official, but they don't engage in the process. And if you're not part of the solution, you are the problem. So be a part of the solution.
Amen to that. And Patriot out there has a great comment that I am going to put up on the screen here. Excuse me. Earlier when I held up this little pocket Constitution, I said it's pretty small. And Patriot, what you can't see is me holding up one of these little pocket Constitutions in front of the camera here. But Patriot says pretty small. I disagree. Is the largest document ever created by the hands of man, and nothing is more true than that statement out of anything that I've seen or heard or said tonight. Absolutely. This document is the biggest thing that's happened in government, I think, ever, besides maybe our Declaration of Independence. But I think this Constitution is, I mean, it was an experiment at the time. Nothing had ever been done like this at the time. And to this day, nothing has been better than this. A lot of countries have copied it, but nobody's come up with anything better than this one. And have we always gotten it right? Of course not. We used to let one human being own another human being, and we said it was okay, but we learned better, and we grew, and we got better, at everything that we've done. Now we let people vote just because they're a citizen. I think they should have to prove they're a citizen. I don't think you should have to have a permit to vote, but I think you should have to prove that you've got the right to do it before they let just anybody in there and cast a ballot. But that's a topic for a different night. But no government on the planet has ever worked better than this one does. Not as far as actually keeping its citizens free, right? I mean, again, you can have a tyrannical government who makes every decision for you, and maybe you'll have a benevolent ruler come through every now and then. Maybe you'll have the What am I trying to think of? King Richard, the good king that everybody loved in England. King Richard that went off to reclaim the Holy Land from the Turks, right, in the Crusades. But if you follow the Robin Hood story, not everybody's King Richard. Who was there when he left? Prince John to take over. And you get that Prince John that wants to tax everybody for everything that they're worth and lord it over them and be oppressive. Well, that's the problem when you don't have a representative government like we do, a constitutional republic like we do, where you just get what you get and you don't have any recourse. We've got recourse. You couldn't fire a king. You couldn't vote the king out of office. You couldn't vote the king out of the castle. In fact, if you even said such a thing, you got beheaded usually. We can talk about it all the time because this document says they can't take away our right to say that we don't like the people that are making the laws. We can badmouth them all we want. I don't have to like Megan Hunt. And I don't have to say that I like her. I can say that I don't like her. I'm not going to say that I don't like her because I've never actually met her. I don't like the things that I've heard her say, and I don't like much of what I've seen her do. And that's as far as I can take it. Don't know if she's a nice person or not. So I can't say if I like her or not. But I'm just assuming from what I know that we probably aren't ever going to be friends. That's it. And so again, I shouldn't say I'm assuming. Based on what I know, I have concluded that we're probably never going to be friends, her and me. But if I met her and found out she was actually a sweet person and we could, you don't have to agree with me politically to be my friend. I got friends that don't believe the same things I do. That's okay. But again, we go back to this Constitution, and it doesn't matter what you or I think about this thing. The fact is, it's in here. It's the law of the land, and we got to follow it. And the reason that that's important is because it doesn't matter what you or I think. This can't be swayed by personal opinions or whims. It's the law. The law is the law. We've got to figure out exactly what it says and follow it. Excuse me. All right, so we're going to wrap things up, and before we do that, I just want to again mention that we're live on the YouTube and the Facebook tonight because of Garrett Keel up at Open Country Firearms in Osmond, Nebraska. Garrett's goal again with Open Country was to create a great storefront and assist responsible gun owners in new and used purchases, custom orders, transfers, and more. He's always been an advocate for the Second Amendment and thought opening his own gun store would be an excellent way to help shooters get what they want and connect with new people. Call Garrett at 402-841-0970 or visit opencountryfirearms.com, and those are on the screen for those of you that are actually watching and not listening to the audio version. For some of the best deals on new and used firearms, ammunition, and now suppressors. And again, if you do go up there, you give him a call, make sure you let him know that we talked about him here on the show so that he knows that it's actually doing some good. So, all right, before we wrap things up, I just want to thank all of you for hanging out with us, for watching us. If you're not watching live, then thank you for tuning in after the fact when it was more convenient for you, because I know not everybody can be here live, and that's okay. But please help us out. Please share this. Please help this grow from the best show that nobody's watching to the best show that everybody should watch, right? And if you know somebody that should be watching this or listening to it, then whatever you're watching on, whether it's Facebook, YouTube, you're listening to one of the podcast links, please share that. Get it out to other people. See if we can grow this audience, because I think that, number one, I think every now and then I find something decent to say, but I've got some really good panelists week in and week out that always have something smart to say. And I try to always find somebody that maybe knows what they're talking about just a little bit and has some good stuff to say. So you can tune in every week and hear what it is that the people on the show here have to say about whatever the topic is. So with all that said, please help us out, share it, like it. If you haven't subscribed to us on YouTube, get over there and subscribe to Sandhills Media. If you haven't gone to the Facebook page, even though I'm in Facebook jail, or the real me is in Facebook jail, pseudo me is running the page right now. How do I say that? Alternate John, my alter ego, out of body personality, I don't know what it is running the page right now, but go like the Facebook page too. So with that, we're gonna let everybody sign off and but get those shameless plugs out there. So Trent, we're gonna start with you being our honored guest tonight. So If you have any other final thoughts you want to put out there, and then where can people find you and what you have to say?
Trent Loose on any social media platform or loosetailsmedia.com. And once again, thanks, John.
You betcha. Thanks for coming and hanging out with us. All right, Travis, any final thoughts, and where can people find you?
Yeah, I'm not really concerned about plugging myself right now, talking about this. I want to say something real quick. Roll Call 219 just posted a video saying that Indiana constitutional carry gets vetoed. And this is the thing I want people to understand. If you're a representative, by not allowing your constituents to carry a firearm to defend themselves because you can't guarantee my safety, you are doing us a disservice. In fact, you're endangering our lives, and you should not be representing me. So after seeing him post that, and the fact that all it does is perpetuate a system, whenever bad things happen to people, they want to go after the root of the problem, the guns, right? Although they never mention that the people can't defend themselves. So I just want to say real quick that if you're not a representative that's in favor of allowing me to carry a firearm to defend myself, then you're not doing me any justice. So yeah, I know. I just saw that anyway. Yeah.
Did it actually get vetoed? Because I'm trying to.
He's got that on the title of his live show right now. Roll Call 219 does, and I know that was something. It just needed to be signed, and it was done.
Because all I'm finding, of course, I'm searching on Google, so that's my first mistake.
But whether it's the case or not, it's just the idea that since they can't guarantee my safety, by not allowing it, I don't want you representing me because you're not in my best interests.
Well,
so I think people need to remember that.
Is whatever IMPD is, IMPD Assistant Chief Chris Bailey has penned an op-ed in the Indianapolis Star calling for Governor Eric Holcomb to veto the legislation. So whatever IMPD is, Assistant Chief is asking the governor not to sign it. But again, that sounds like law enforcement, and
it sounds like Indiana or Indianapolis Metropolitan Police Department.
There we go. That's probably what that is. Makes sense. Yeah, Indianapolis, I think, is also known for being the bastion of conservative values, isn't it? In all of Indiana, I'm sure not. Kind of like Omaha and Lincoln in Nebraska. All right, Travis, thank you for that.
Yeah,
and
no problem, man.
We'll keep an eye on what happens in Indiana, but hopefully the governor will sign that. So, and congratulations, since we last talked on one of these, to Alabama and Ohio for your governors signing those bills into law. All right, Defense Dad, you can back clean up again.
Oh, I think we had a good conversation tonight. Just stand up for your rights and go vote because you can help some of this stuff. As far as I don't have anything coming up on the channel right now other than just normal videos, but I did put in the chat, and I keep forgetting that if I do it on here, it was under Sandhills Media. It should have been under one, but we have the range event coming up in June. If anyone does have a YouTube channel, would like to join us here south of Lincoln, please RSVP to defensedad1@gmail.com or to Travis so you can get signed up and get a spot. That's it.
Very cool. And I found out recently that with scheduling, we're not going to make it down there to that, and I really wish I could. But yeah, if you've got a YouTube channel and you do gun stuff, get a hold of Defense Dad, defensedad1@gmail.com, and get the lowdown on that. So gonna be a fun time, and we're gonna miss it. For those of you on the YouTube side that haven't seen it yet, I did throw a poll out there, and DJ Play Nice thought maybe I should have worded it differently, but I said, is your safety the government's responsibility? I think it's worded quite well. 8 votes in right now, 100% voting no. The government's their safety is not the government's responsibility.
I rest my case, Your Honor.
I'm just gonna leave that. So if you haven't hit that poll yet, go check it out and throw your vote in there. Is your safety the government's responsibility? I'm curious to see if we get any yes votes as we go along here. So I'm going to leave. I don't know how the polls work in the live chats. Does it stay up forever, or does it end when we end this? We'll find out. We'll find out together.
It probably is present during the live chat the whole time. I really don't know, because when I close them out, I guess I don't. They might repost. They might show back up again the whole time that they were active. It's a good question, because I do them almost every week. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Well, we'll find out on this one. So, all right. Well, with all that being said, do we have a list? I think we have a list, because my producer is in her seat. She's feeling well enough tonight to actually be in here. Again, the people that made the comments out there in the live chat on the Facebook side, we had Michael and Amy. Thank you for joining us on the Facebook side. On YouTube, G-Webs, Patriot in the Dark, Pat Hirsch, Defense Dad, DJ Play Nice, Gunpowder Beauty, Mike, Gizzard Gary, Vanessa Kitty, Travis P11, and I don't think we missed anybody. So, we can add Dewey on Facebook. Awesome. All right. Oh, there's Dewey. I see that now. Maybe some old style civil defense. We'll have to see. So with that, guys, we're going to call it a night. Again, mash that share button. Go subscribe to the pages. Go subscribe to Travis P11 and Defense Dad and everything that Trent's doing. It's what was it again?
Loosetailsmedia.com.
Loosetailsmedia.com. Go check all that stuff out too, because Trent's got some cool stuff to say. So on behalf of Trent and Travis and Defense Dad, Sandhill Sweetheart, and myself, thanks for hanging out with us. I don't know for sure what we're going to do. I'm still kicking around some ideas. Next week is episode 100. We've got to figure out something to make it a blowout. You know what? Just email me. NESandhillsmedia@gmail. NE for Nebraska. NESandhillsmedia@gmail. Email us some ideas. What can we do next week for episode 100 to make it epic? It's got to be legend. Wait for it. Dairy. All right. So now you got your homework. If you're still here, drop those emails. Let me know what you're thinking. For the rest of the night, that's it. We love you. God bless you. Thanks for being here. Stay free and as safe as you can, but freedom is more important than safety. Our founding fathers agreed. That's why they put the things that they did in our Constitution. That's all I got. Good night, everybody. It's time for you to leave. Get off my lawn.